Welcome back to another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. This entire industry has gone remake crazy, but no company has jumped on the bandwagon harder than Sony. Remember when people thought The Last of Us Part 1 was kind of unnecessary? Well, they've managed to top themselves here in terms of pointlessness with Until Dawn. No, there's no remake in there, just Until Dawn again. It's less than a decade after the original came out, and while I do think that there are games where that makes sense to do, I made people mad on Twitter/X by saying the potato people of the original Until Dawn actually do merit a remake. The original character models for that game are not great, and I think that the remake's improvement is actually enough to warrant a remake. Maybe not a full-priced one, but that's not really what we're talking about here. Until Dawn is a fine-looking game, still. It aged pretty well in terms of what the game looked like, I thought. And although this new version of the game was made by Ballistic Moon rather than Supermassive, it's pretty much, in every way, almost identical to the original. It's the same characters delivering the same lines in the exact same sequence of events. Not necessarily a negative, and there are a few changes here and there, but for the most part, they're pretty minor. So if you have played Until Dawn before, there's not a lot here for you. It's a $60 graphical update, and it is an improvement. I'm not trying to crap on that. There are aspects of the Unreal 5 engine that are used very well here. The game does look better overall. The lighting is significantly better. Animations are improved. Character models are more detailed. The frame rate is sturdy, and I don't know if you remember playing the original, but it was not. And obviously, I like those things, but is it that much of a difference? No, not $60 worth of a difference anyways. It would be different if there were some kind of flaw in the original's presentation, but I don't really think there is. And even then, $60 seems steep. So that's my review. If you've played the original, there's not a lot of reason to revisit the remake. It's literally the same game. New coat of paint. Not a bad coat of paint. Definitely not criticizing the coat of paint. Just the cost of it. I mean, there's a couple of things I'll discuss a little bit more later, but I think the more substantial thing to talk about probably is Until Dawn itself. If you didn't play the original, there is plenty to talk about. It's a narrative adventure game. It's similar to stuff that like Quantic Dreams or Telltale put out in the past, and it sticks pretty close to that template. The thing that makes Until Dawn unique is not just that it's a horror story, it's a slasher, and it has all the cliches and expectations that come with that genre. You wander around spooky locations in very linear cinematic segments. Most of your time is spent either talking to your knucklehead friends or doing simple QTEs. Often you're given some kind of decision, and depending on what you do, it can change a character's fate and the eventual outcome of the story. Instead of playing as a specific character, the narrative bounces around between multiple characters doing different things. A lot of them are awful. I mean, this is a slasher after all. But once things really kick into high gear, it's hard not to feel at least a little bad about the suffering these guys go through. Most of them, at least. The story is a classic horror setup. Group of friends out in a rich family's lodge pull a nasty prank on a girl. It leads to tragedy. A year later, they're lured back to the cabin on the anniversary of her death, and a psychotic killer reveals themselves. It's a tried and true setup, but the game does a lot to play with your expectations in a way that makes what's old feel new again. I've said in the past, I think Until Dawn is Supermassive's best game, and going back to it now, I still do feel the same. They throw a ton of different twists at you. There's multiple different endings. It keeps the momentum going. The story just works in a way other games like this struggle to, and it's definitely due to all the various conventions the developers came up with. Is it radically different in form? Arguably sometimes, but I would say overall no. The content just really makes that form work extra good, though. I did the Before You Buy for the Frank Stone game, and it's just complete evidence that this game works in a way most of their other games don't. And I think a lot of it comes down to having Sony money. Like, the budget for this was provided by Sony. This kind of gave them the ability to work at the level of their ambition. And I think that's kind of the problem with their later games. They are an ambitious company in terms of what they want to do, and they need to learn how to limit their scope based on the budget that they have. That said, Until Dawn holds up really well. Some of the characters are annoying, they act like idiots, they make stupid mistakes all the time, but the game has this campy energy that makes it work, and it helps that they play it all totally straight. There's no winking at the camera, besides the times when Dr. Peter Stormare is literally looking at the camera. But that's a wrinkle in the story that's constantly mixing things up in a good way. There's the mysterious monster in the woods, the crazy flamethrower man who wants revenge, the saw traps, the psychologist segments. Throw in the silly character dramas and constant character switching, there's a lot to chew on in a relatively short but packed horror experience. It's not really all that scary, but it's fun. Around the 2-hour mark, the story gets dangerously close to being repetitive. That's when I was switching back and forth to characters wandering around in the snow, getting jump scared by friendly woodland creatures, and that goes on for nearly too long. But right at the right moment, the moment where I felt like I was starting to get annoyed, things kicked into high gear. For these types of games, it has to feel like your choices really matter, and for the most part, Until Dawn pulls that off much better than most. There's a point in the story where you're forced into a sadistic choice, and you have to decide who lives and who dies, and depending on who you pick, it completely changes who, I always forget this guy's name, Chris. Yeah, it changes who he has with him for a while. Make the wrong choices and characters can and will die in horrible, gruesome ways. One thing Ballistic Moon absolutely did improve was the gore. There's some pretty gnarly stuff here. It's definitely improved compared to the original. Some of the deaths are still kind of lame, but the violence is cranked up. I'm not going to show this stuff because, we got to make it a money. Don't want to get demonetized here, but trust me, it's impressively gross. What's great about these games is that it's not really about making the right or wrong choice exactly. It's about doing what you want. The game gives you a bunch of obnoxious characters that you probably do want to see die, and it's up to you to decide their fate. If you want everybody to meet a violent end, and that's your choice, you can do that pretty much. If you're the type that yells at the screen whenever someone does something dumb in a slasher, then the game lets you make actually smart choices. There are a few gotchas that are almost impossible to predict, but for the most part, if you're reading all the notes and thinking about what's going on, it is possible to do everything right and save pretty much everyone. Not everyone, pretty much everyone. It's not like other narrative games where you only follow a single character and messing up feels wrong. It's not like one of those David Cage games where the failure leaves the narrative half finished. In Until Dawn, people dying feels perfectly natural because it's a slasher. It's just what happens in these things. So no matter the outcome, it usually feels right. That is the case with all their games, but Until Dawn is so much better at pacing. There's very little boring standing around while people talk to pad out the playtime, wandering back and forth to the same locations. This game changes things up pretty constantly. It gives you little activities to do, stay engaged, throws decisions at you nonstop. Like, some of them don't matter that much, but it keeps things from getting boring, even when there's not really that much happening in the story. The story itself, it's not smart. It doesn't have deep themes or realistic dialogue. The characters say some pretty dumb stuff, and depending on how sensitive you are to secondhand embarrassment, it may make this kind of thing painful, but I don't know. I think it works with the genre, makes a good horror atmosphere. It's not a horror comedy, far from it, but it's definitely not 100% serious either. It's self-aware, I guess is probably the best way to put it. Then again, sometimes it does throw things at you. I can't decide if they're serious or not. Like the terrifying deer cliffhanger. Are we supposed to be scared of the deer, or are we supposed to laugh? I don't know. Like, legitimately, it's been, not a decade, but not far from a decade. And I can't tell if that's serious or not. Some of that's going to rub people the wrong way. The big killer reveal is pretty crazy. How certain situations resolve might feel like a cop-out, while also seriously straining credibility, but I don't know, like, horror movies are not good films. That might be a controversial statement, I don't know, but, like, if you like a horror movie, it's kind of because it's fun rather than good. At least that is how it is for me, and it's clearly who Until Dawn is made for. It's a choose-your-own-adventure game with a bunch of odd plot turns, and if you figure some of this stuff out before it happens, you feel like a genius, even if, in hindsight, it was kind of obvious. So, I really like Until Dawn. Playing it again has been a lot of fun. After casting of Frank Stone, I was still wondering if Supermassive ever really had it, but going back to this game shows they very much did. It's a good game, and for the most part, it's a good remaster. The new graphics feel very similar to the original. They don't drastically change anything stylistically, but they're clearly a lot better. Skin behaves differently, hair looks significantly better, etc., etc. They do a few new things as well. They changed the prologue just a little bit. They expanded the whole prank setup, which I'm not sure was necessary, but I don't hate it either. They expanded the explorable area, added some new notes to find, which is fine. It's okay. But the wandering around looking at notes part of the game is probably my least favorite thing, and they really didn't do anything to speed up the walking. There's no jog function, so you're just slowly walking around. It's a chore, and there were times I saw an interactive object and just ignored it, because I didn't want to bother walking all the way over there and back. Just, I don't know, they incentivized some laziness, I guess. An appreciated addition, though, are the new accessibility settings, which can make the QTEs easier. You can make it so you automatically win them, but also, and this is something I like, you can also automatically lose them or just set it to random. There's nothing funnier in one of these games when they give you a chase sequence or something and give you a ton of QTEs and you just make your guy the clumsiest idiot imaginable. It's incredible. Heavy Rain has the best sequence of this in any of these types of games. The truly sublime grocery store sequence. But there's some good stuff here too. The part where you're Mike running after Ashley is absolutely perfect for this kind of buffoonery, just slipping and sliding all over the place, running headfirst into logs and tripping over his own shoelace. I'm a simple guy. If a game lets you do dumb stuff like this, I'm happy. And now with these accessibility settings, you don't have to think about it. Everyone is automatically the dumbest idiot with no spatial awareness ever. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is one significant change to the game in the form of a couple of new endings. These are probably the most intriguing things about the new remake, but they are really short, and it's hard for me recommending the game as a purchase just to see them, because they're not all that much. They're just some new, fairly short cutscenes. Not a lot new here. I'll also say the performance isn't quite as good as it should be either. There's some stuttering, sometimes fairly severe. Not as bad as the original game, I will say. I felt a lot of the time as I was going through this, oh, that's nice. Didn't have to have the severely low frame rate of this area. But that doesn't mean, like, it's buttery smooth or anything either. It also completely froze on me one time for what seemed like no reason. Only happened once, and I did only lose seconds of progress, thankfully. But you'd think in a remaster of a game that's not even super old, it wouldn't have these kinds of technical issues. The slowdown, though, was by far the most annoying part. And even then, it was infrequent, so it was never a big issue. And like I said, the original had pretty frequent slowdown that was very grating at times. My problem with the Until Dawn remaster really has nothing to do with the game itself or the remake itself. It's a solid remake of a game I like, but that's just all it is. It's the same game with a couple of very minor additions. They're mostly positive. I don't want to discount the good work this new developer has done, but it's just not enough to justify itself. Like, even for new players, I feel like asking for $60 is too much. It's so similar to the original, it feels like it should have gotten like a $20 PS5 upgrade or something. That's closer to what it's actually worth. It's not a bad game or even a bad remaster. It's good on both of those counts, but the amount they're charging for what is an essentially repackaged 9-year-old adventure game is the scariest thing about Until Dawn. The tone of this Before You Buy would probably be very different at a different price point. That's pretty much all I have to say at the end here. I recommend this game. It's a wonderful game. It's probably one of the best examples of its genre. And I don't mean horror, but I mean the choose your own adventure type game. It does it better than 95% of its competition. But $60 for a 9-year-old game that feels the same? Up to you. I mean, if money's no object and you want to play Until Dawn again, go for it. Enjoy. It's a good experience. I wouldn't spend $60 for it now. I mean, maybe back when it originally came out, sure. That's all I've got to say, though. What do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.